Hello, everyone, to Monday, March 16th, 2020 edition of 8th grade US History. I hope that you have had an excellent day of e-learning so far. This is the first of many. But to just remind you, the very beginning, be sure to be taking your notes on your note packet as we go through the rest of our slides for the coming of war. Because when we are done with today's lesson, you need to make sure that you are taking your picture of your completed notes, uploading them onto this assignment on Teams so you can get your credit of participation for today. So, like I said, make sure you fill in your blanks as we go through this PowerPoint. Take any extra notes off to the side if you would so choose, because remember, you still have a quest on Thursday. I'm still going to be giving you your test. And so be sure to be taking these notes and also upload them onto Teams so I can give you the credit that you deserve. So we have left off in this idea that we are about to get to war, the War of 1812, but what is happening that is leading up to this? And so we could talk about the man, the myth, the legend, Tecumseh. And we did start talking about this slide when we were last together. However, we only got so far through. And so I'm going to recap a little bit, and then we'll pick up where we left off. So Tecumseh, Shawnee Chief, United States rival. Remember, Treaty of Greenville, we were trying to get Native American tribes to sign off this idea of moving west as we expand west. So we're pushing them farther and farther outside of our settled land. We wanted to keep pushing them farther and farther away from us as we continue to expand. But at some point, we're going to all reach the coast of California, and what's going to happen then? But that's a question for another day. But this Treaty of Greenville is this idea that Native American tribes are signing and agreeing to kind of stay out of the United States' way. Tecumseh, as we know, being the rival of the United States out west, he does not sign the Treaty of Greenville. And because he did not sign the treaty, he believed himself to be exempt from the treaty. He did not have to follow it because he did not sign it. Which, of course, America was like, that's not how it works, man. And Tecumseh's like, you can't tell me what to do because I didn't sign your treaty. And so he goes around and he warns other Native American tribes about the dangers of these American settlers and that we should not trust the American government because all they do is give us false promises and they lie and they take our land and they kill our people. And so he believes that in order for Native Americans to succeed against the United States government, they have to unite, which is literally just like the United States of America had done. Tecumseh, the smart genius that he is, sees how 13 colonies that had nothing in common except oppressive British rule unite together and fight back against their oppressors, go and succeed and overthrow the British. And so Tecumseh's like, I'm going to use their own tactics against them, and I'm going to take all of these Native American tribes that have nothing in common except for the fact that our oppressor are people who keep giving us grief and keep killing our people and keep taking our land. They are the United States government. So we are all going to unite together and fight them. And that was the plan. And it was a pretty scary plan because there was a lot of Native American tribes all throughout the United States. And so with the help of his brother, Tecumseh's brother's nickname was the Prophet. He has a different name. It's a lot bigger, a lot harder to pronounce, but we'll call him the Prophet. With his help, they worked to unite the Native Americans of the Northwest Territory and along the south and eastern Mississippi Valley tribes. And so, like in your map of the Louisiana Purchase, remember the Northwest Territory is like Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, but then also south and eastern Mississippi Valley, so that's all the way down the Mississippi River. Any tribes that are on both sides. And so he's trying to unite all of those people who are within a close distance of where he is, up in the Northwest Territory, to be able to unite together and be able to fight against the American government. But together, they're kind of like headquarters for this unity project was going to be called Prophetstown, a small village named after Tecumseh's brother near the Wabash and Tippecanoe rivers. And these two rivers should hopefully be very familiar to you, just in your knowledge of our beautiful state. And know that where these two rivers come together, is in northern Indiana. And so, a quote that will be said about Tecumseh by Tecumseh's greatest American rival, who will be William Henry Harrison. William Henry Harrison is going to quote about Tecumseh, one of those uncommon geniuses which spring up occasionally to overturn the established order. And so, what William Henry Harrison is trying to say about Tecumseh is, first of all, kind of a compliment in the idea that he's like, you know what? I'll admit it. He is a genius. Who am I to stand in the way of what Tecumseh is doing? Except it is his job to stand in the way of what he's doing. But he's saying that the reason why Tecumseh is also a genius is this idea that in history we have random people who all of a sudden go against the status quo, like in High School Musical, the status quo, whoa, 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 to overturn this established order, to overturn the way that things are. And that's what Tecumseh is setting out to do. He doesn't want America to be the way it has been anymore. He wants to be separated from. He does not want to be conquered by the American government. And so the Battle of Tippecanoe, and like we said, this is going to be kind of the general area where Prophetstown is located. So if you look at this map off to the right, this map of beautiful, beautiful Indiana, you will see this green star is where the Battle of Tippecanoe was. This is where Prophetstown is. And so also in relative location to where we are, if we are in Brownsburg, which is just northwest of Indianapolis, look at how close we actually are to where the Battle of Tippecanoe was fought. We already have this connection to this big moment in United States history. And so the year is 1810, and Tecumseh and Harrison actually meet face to face. Harrison invited Tecumseh to come talk, like weapons set aside, although the both of them had soldiers and warriors on either side just in case something goes down. And Harrison tells Tecumseh that he needs to agree to the Treaty of Greenville and warns him not to resist the power of the United States. But even when Harrison tells Tecumseh that he needs to agree to this treaty, Tecumseh, of course, because we know Tecumseh, we understand where his brain is operating from a certain level, Tecumseh is going to refuse. And he goes on, he's like, not only am I going to refuse, but I'm going to build my army even more up against you. And so he goes out to be able to unite more tribes and to go and gather all of the people in this idea, in this plan to go and fight the American government. But while he is gone, William Henry Harrison uses this opportunity to go and attack Prophetstown because Tecumseh goes out with all of his guys. He leaves his brother behind because it's also important to mention the prophet is not your ideal, or maybe we shouldn't say ideal, is not your typical average Native American man, you who is not prepared to fight. He is not very physically equipped with any sort of like hand-eye coordination. I'm gonna go and like hunt people down with my bows and arrows and things like that, right? When we oftentimes think of stereotypical Native Americans, we should not stereotype. But the prophet, he was kind of just kept on the sidelines because he was not a good warrior. He was not able, he was kind of like the black sheep of the family, kind of off to the side and not really utilized except for helping his brother convince people that his ideas were really good. But as Tecumseh goes out, he leaves his brother behind at Prophetstown. And Harrison is like, this is the perfect opportunity. All the warriors are gone. Tecumseh is gone. I'm going to go and burn down Prophetstown. And that's what he does. Tecumseh's brother, with the people who were left over at Prophetstown, he tries to order a counterattack at Tippecanoe, and the American forces are going to swiftly defeat Tecumseh's men. And so it's also important to know that Prophetstown, when it's left behind, is this idea. Hello again. I'm so sorry for that cut off mid sentence. I was interrupted. But now I'm back, and I don't remember what sentence I was saying when I paused my audio. But remember, it is good to know that Prophetstown, because it was a village, because it was a whole community, Tecumseh leaves with his warriors. Who was left behind? The brother. We already know the prophet is there. some other warriors because we can counterattack at the battle against William Henry Harrison, but know that this is a village, this is a thriving community. There are also going to be women and children who are there as well. And so this whole village is defeated, it is destroyed. And so it is safe to assume and to know that women and children have also died in this conflict as well, which is really, really sad and really, really hard to be able to wrestle with in history. The fact that American soldiers have gone and done this to the Native Americans, to people who just wanted to live peacefully on this ground but have to fight back because the American government is continuing to push them back in land that they're not used to, in land that they don't know. And so when Tecumseh's forces and Tecumseh's men, who were not already with him, were defeated at Tippecanoe, Tecumseh flees to Canada. Not for the moose, not for the maple syrup, not for the catchy song that is the Canadian national anthem and any song ever written by Justin Bieber, who is Canadian. That is not why he goes there. He goes there because he finally realizes that he needs some sort of outside help to get his point across. And so the people he is going to go and seek this help from is obviously not the Americans, but actually the British. And so we've looked at kind of the brewing of war and this idea that we have the British, we have the French, they're fighting a war against each other. They're taking American sailors, specifically the British. We're trying to figure out how to like kind of stay out of the conflict. So we put all these like taxes, this embargo on them. We ban them from trading with us, which ends up hurting us more than it hurts them. And so there's all this conflict with like war on the money side of things. But now we're seeing Tecumseh out west causing a lot of conflict at the same time. So there's this whole war going on out west. But what is this looking like back in Washington, D.C.? What are the people in politics having to say about this? And people in America, they're going to be saying the war on the Wabash is purely British. So when we look at our conflict with Tecumseh on the Wabash River, this is the British's fault. Why is it the British's fault? Is this not just the Native Americans trying to fight back against the American government, against the American military? Shouldn't we be blaming all of these problems on the Native Americans? But the Native Americans, they're fighting us with weapons. Who did they get these weapons from? And that would be the British. So if we were to make a chain reaction of different decisions and choices that have happened indirectly, this problem is the British's problem because they supplied a lot of these Native Americans with weapons to be able to cause havoc on the United States, to make them pay for the things that they've done with trade and for the fact that we're not offering them help when they're fighting France. And so reactions to all this conflict out west, people are going to blame the British for the conflict with Tecumseh. We've already talked about that a little bit just now. And so what do we do about it? And so this group of people are going to emerge and they're going to be known as the War Hawks. And they're young congressmen, so young representatives, young senators who are going to take the lead in trying to convince people to go to war, specifically with Britain. And the two people who are going to take this charge are Henry Clay and John C. Calhoun, who I have pictured right here. So this one's Henry Clay. This is John C. Calhoun. And obviously they do not look young in these portraits, but they were young once. And the fact that their pictures are old is going to tell you I'm foreshadowing or predicting the future for you, like the prophet, that you are going to talk about them later. We are going to know who they are later in the story of America. But the Warhawks have two main points. We want to stop the British influence of Native Americans. That's why we want to go to war with Britain first. We want to make sure that they are done influencing the Native Americans, that we are done with the British giving weapons to continue to fight us. And then second, we want to eventually invade Canada and gain land. Which this would be when I would ask you, has America ever invaded Canada before? And you would say, yes, Miss Bostic, yes, they have. And you would all be so excited to tell me, excuse me, that yes, America invaded Canada. We tried to invade Canada in the Revolutionary War. Pause. Did it go well for us? No, not at all. It did not. And so why would we want to try and do it again? Do you think America is still equipped to be able to do this again? That is for history to decide. That is for history to decide. But that is the point of the Warhawks. Stop British influence, to invade Canada, gain more land for the United States, even though we just doubled the size of America with, what was it? Oh yes, the Louisiana Purchase. However, not everyone was a Warhawk. Not everyone liked the plan of the Warhawks, and one group of people would specifically be the New England, so the very northern parts of the United States at this time, the New England Federalists. They did not like this plan at all because already the British trade restrictions hurt our economy, and adding a war onto that would make it totally worse. And so imagine how much we've already hurt our money making with other countries by saying, we're not going to do trade with you because you're being mean to us. And then also adding a war on top of that. And we've talked time and time again that war is, wait for it, expensive. And so this idea of both of these combined would be a nightmare to the American economy and just put us in more and more debt, which on this side of history, we obviously know we're just always going to be in debt. It's just going to happen. But we don't want to all of a sudden be in the most debt. And so we're trying to be able to be at least a little bit cautionary about it. But even some who still did not like the Warhawks, but did not have the same reasoning as the New England Federalists, they were just like, it's just too soon for the United States to be able to go to war. We're still a baby country. We're still too young for these decisions. It would not be okay. And so, as would be said also about America, so prior to any declaration of war, my plan would be, and my first wish is, to prepare for it, to put the country in complete armor. And so, it's this idea that before we can even think about being able to fight in a war, shouldn't we be the most prepared? Like, shouldn't we actually have like a decently sized military? Shouldn't we be able to know that we could fight back and win? And so it's this idea that the American government would rather know we have a good fighting chance rather than enter into a war knowing that we are just probably going to die, which would not be good. And so at this point in time, a new leader is elected. There he is. And you have seen this picture before. He is your father of the Constitution. He is the BFF to Thomas Jefferson, Jefferson's former Secretary of State. This is the man, the myth, the legend, James Madison. So James Madison, elected president 1808. And we've already talked about that as well. But he passes the Embargo Act, or more rather, he continues the Embargo Act that Jefferson had passed. Why would he do this? Well, Jefferson and Madison were both Democratic Republicans. Being a president of the same political party after you, you would most likely continue a lot of the same laws and policies that the president before you had because you have similar political ideas. And that is all what it means to be part of a political party. But James Madison also at the same time, he feels this big pressure from the Warhawks. It's kind of like they're chanting in his ears at all time, like war, 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 war. We want to go to war. We want to go to war. And he's like, I hear you, but I don't think we're ready. I just don't think we can. But that pressure is there and it's continuing to grow. And so in 1812, he decides that Congress should vote about going to war, saying that the British actions were evil and they're harmful to America. The things that they're doing with the Native Americans, the things that they're doing to our trade, even though that was our choice not to trade with the British, they were evil, they're going to hurt us. And so we have to go to war to stop it. And so, why would James Madison be going to Congress for this idea? And it would be because in the Constitution, which we have talked about, it is Congress's job to go to war. It is not the president's job. It is Congress's job. And so Congress votes to declare war, and Madison was reelected the president. And he would lead the country in the War of 1812. And so this is where our notes stop. And so remember, take what you've written down, take a picture of it, upload it onto Teams, onto this assignment, and I can give you your credit for today. Tomorrow, it's not going to be any note style, it's going to be an activity. And remember that this note assignment needs to be up by 11:59 p.m. tonight for you to not get a late grade. All right, I hope your first e-learning day has gone well. And remember, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I miss you. And we still have 3 more weeks. But you are champions and you've got this. All right, goodbye, goodbye.